Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another show of the Everything Talk Education. This is the second show we're having, and it's a Sunday show where we'll be dealing with the health and well-being of educators and students and how COVID have actually had an impact on the well-being or the mental health of both client groups, which no one is talking about. Because as we know, schools have been open, or some of them are due to open this week. And a lot of educators are not prepared as to how they're going to be dealing with their own mental health issue and that of their students. And as an educator and someone who is involved with psychology and CBT, NLP, etc., I also feel that the educational institution, whether or not it is schools, colleges, universities, etc., are not well equipped for what is going to happen. We are also aware that by December, we'll have a major issue with the mental health of these two groups of people, more so with the educators and the students. I'm not saying everyone is not impacted, but because these set of people have always been interacting with groups, and they have actually had this long time off and they're now going back, there'll be a lot of issues. So we do need to talk about it, and we do need to find strategies and tools to equip our educators to deal with your children and my children and the children out there. So parents and others, instead of attacking educators, you need to realize that they're doing so much and they're not too sure even what they're doing and what they're meant to do. And this is a big area because we don't know what to do. So hence the reason why I've set up this platform for us to talk about it. And on the platform, we've got various health practitioners, i.e. psychologists, CBT, etc., who would actually give us suggestions to deal with the mental well-being of the students and ourselves as educators. I've actually spoken to an educator last week who've actually gone back. And she had said to me, I've said to her, okay, you've gone back, what are the issues? Because I just wanted to know what was happening. I said, what have your school got in place? She said, oh, well, we had staff development, and we spoke very briefly about the mental health issue of educators and the students. So I then said to her, okay, what have they got in place for the educators to equip them to deal with the students? She then said to me, oh, they've given us a series of websites. For me, as an educator, I don't feel that is good enough because we could have done that ourselves. Because we do look on our educational institution for supports. So let's say, okay, well, this is how we are going to train you. This actually is telling me that these educational institutions are not taking the mental health issue of the educators and students seriously enough. So let's talk about it. I'm now ready to welcome my guests so they could actually tell you what they do and what country they come from. I have two other participants trying to log on because as we know, the internet, although it's fantastic, it also has its challenges. So there are two other participants supposed to be coming on, and they've been having some challenges to come on. So they might be on or they may not be on. We just have to wait to see what happened to this internet. Okay, introduce yourself, please, guests. And thank you very, very much for coming on. I do appreciate you taking the time out to come and talk on the platform and give suggestions, etc. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Introduce yourselves.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm going to let the ladies go first. In alphabetical order.
Brenda, go on.
Okay, I'll go ahead, then Martha can follow me.
Yes.
So my name is Brenda Onyango. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. I am a counseling psychologist, and I am also a lecturer at a hospitality institution. I teach front office and other hospitality courses, and it's a pleasure to be here. I am very excited about this, and I'm looking forward to share my knowledge as well as to learn from the rest of the team. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie, for inviting me.
Thank you. Brenda is a returning participant because she came onto my education platform, which is every evening. So we were talking about the challenges and trial for online teaching. So Brenda was here a few weeks ago telling us of her challenges. So she wears two hats. Thank you, Brenda. Martha?
Thank you very much, Debbie, for inviting me today. My name is Martha Murunga from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a consultant psychologist, and I am very glad that I've come to share the challenges that have been posed by COVID-19 towards the educators and the students. I'm actually here both to give my input and to learn from the rest of the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Alistair?
Hi guys, so yeah, I'm Alistair Coward. I am a director of an organization called Zest of Mind. I'm a lecturer and educator. So I started Zest of Mind because I saw the gap between traditional teaching in colleges, in schools. And I thought, you know what, somebody needs to plug this gap. So I decided, well, let me start off Zest of Mind as a well-being organization that delivers fitness, nutrition, and personal development. So I'm also, it's a pleasure for me to be here as well, and especially as this is the Female Educators Forum. So yeah, quite privileged. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel I need to correct Alistair here. It's not so much the female is every evening, but I've decided to create the mental health package in terms of everything education. So we're looking at every educator, whether it's male or female. And in this case, we're looking at male or female, the challenges of our mental health due to COVID-19, Alistair.
Great, so I gave you an opportunity to plug the weekly shows there.
Exactly. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, my Facebook audience, for coming online. And thank you for tuning into this. One of the things that I've actually crossed my mind, as I said earlier on, the question I'm posing is, could educational institution, whether or not it is school, colleges, university, training center, whatever educational institution we're talking about, can they cope with the increase in the mental health issue of both educators and students? So whether or not the trainers or the educators, they're all under the same bracket as far as I'm concerned, and the students. That's one of the questions I've actually asked myself, and I'm asking everybody. As an educator, I do know that they cannot cope, because we also know before COVID-19, when we are going into schools and as educators, the students are coming to us with a backpack. And in that backpack, there's so many things. There's the issue that some of them haven't had any breakfast. Some of them just had issue with the parents. Some of them might be pregnant. Some of them have, anxiety because they don't like the education sector. Some of them might already have mental health issue. So we know before this big pandemic, we had all of that to deal with. And we were struggling dealing with it. So now that we actually have a real big problem of the isolation, the psychological aspect, the fact of loss, lack of attachment, the lack of relationship because they've just lost the relationship they used to have with the peers. So these are all things, and the fact that some students might feel rejected, especially the pre-nursery children who the teachers can no longer cuddle them or hug them, they might feel a sense of rejection. We also have the emotional aspect and the social factor because we are social beings. So I'm posing that to the panel. How do you feel that we are going to deal with that? How can we deal with that? I'm opening it out. Anybody?
I look at it like this. Platforms like this is what we'll deal with it. And I think that as much discussions and talks as possible between everybody involved. So it's great that you have educators and psychologists and people in all fields that are attached to education need to get involved. And I think it's fantastic that you've done this and started off these types of forums. And I think there just needs to be more of them and done in the schools. Now, not many, actually only about 2 of the schools I've talked to, as in they've reached out to me. And this is where I question, who are they reaching out to, and have they thought of doing this type of thing themselves, and what are they putting into place? Some of the schools have put things into place, some haven't, and it just depends on management, what the senior management is doing. But I think that the more sort of discussion like this, we'll be able to come up with tools and ideas to be able to bring to the young people to help assist.
Thank you. When you say you 2 schools, what tools have they put in place?
One school has a kind of mental health program that they said they're starting. I haven't been able to look into it totally, but they said it's a 6-week program. So I was quite happy with that, as it's not just a one-off workshop or just a couple of days. They've actually looked on it over time, because something like this, you don't know the effects of it immediately. It does take time. So when the young people do come into school, you're not going to know anything. Some of the young people, yes, you see it immediately, but some, they will reveal what's really going on with them over time. So therefore, there needs to be something that needs to be put in place for them to work on over time. So they have a program. I think it's 1 to 2 hours per week, where they're going through a set amount of activities, and hopefully that will reveal things that they can get the experts in to help with.
Thank you. Okay, Martha or Brenda?
I'd like to add onto that. Yeah, you mentioned about the young kids, like the preschool. I mean, the preschool kids who cannot be hugged or touched by their teachers anymore. I think in that case, we need to introduce courses in schools, which are going to let these kids know that the reason as to why this is happening is because the current situation does not allow us to do this, so that they shouldn't have negative thoughts and not really feel like they have been left out. That is something I add. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah, I just agree with Alistair. It's important to have such forums. I think the government of every country should make it a rule that before the schools open, they should have a debriefing session. Yeah, they should do it in as a school on a parade or an assembly, or they can do groups. They can do small groups and just have debriefing sessions, both for students and for teachers, so that people can talk about what they've experienced, so that they can share. As counselors, as therapists, we know about how the sharing aspect of group therapy is so therapeutic to people. When someone hears during the quarantine time, I was very anxious, I was afraid because of this, that, and the other, and they hear somebody else also went through the same, that feeling of we are in this together, our problems are all human problems, is very therapeutic. So I think schools should really have a debriefing session, and it should be done by a professional. I like what Alistair is saying, that other schools have already started it. So I think it's important to just have a consultant psychologist such as Martha here, and just come to the school and do the debriefing for the different groups, so that people can feel that we are in this journey together, and what you're going through is okay, it's normal. Many people have experienced what I'm going through. And so it's really, really important that we consider that, or schools consider that. Yeah. Yeah. And during such forums, they can also talk about some of the coping skills. Yeah. What do you do? How can you cope? as we are trying to move from learning at home or not learning at all and now coming back to class. Yeah. What are some of the coping skills that we can use?
That's very true, because I'm supposed to be, Alistair, I'm not too sure when you're going back, but I'm supposed to be going back this week. And one of the things that have been going through my mind is, okay, when we actually go back into the schools, we have these students coming in that, you know, what you going to do with them? Because as an educator, there's some educators who are all over the place, because I know, you know, a few of them have told me that they're really anxious to go back. I don't have that anxiety, but that's just me. I know other educators have got that anxiety. And it is really good that some schools are doing a 6 weeks package, because Alice, as you rightly say, we cannot tell what the impact of this whole pandemic have done for some students. Some of them are able to show you straight away. Some of them, it would be longer than 6 weeks. So 6 weeks, I understand that, but I also feel that it should also be an ongoing thing, off and on, etc. Because 6 weeks, it's okay, but some students may not even be, probably 2 months down the line, you might realize that this child is going through a major trauma. Because as we know, in terms of people who know about trauma, some of the trauma does not reveal itself until 2 to 3 months. So that is another factor. But I must say, I commend the schools that is looking at a 6 weeks program, because it actually gives some, you know, give them the opportunity to identify some areas. However, the concern is, how are these people going to cope? Because when somebody's saying to me that their school have given them a list of websites, that doesn't do jack. I could have gone and I could have done a search on Google myself and say, okay, how do I deal with, you know, children who are traumatized? So those are some of the things I feel that we need to really dig deep into and offer some tools, as Brenda, you say, in terms of for the educators. Because how are they feeling? Alisa, how are you feeling as an educator? You see, you're not a true representative of my sample, because you already have, you know, because you do fitness, etc., you know the coping mechanism. But there's some educators I know who don't know the coping mechanism and don't know what to do. That's why I was hoping that my other, you know, my other guest come on, because she's an educator and she's an educator in terms of, you know, she hasn't got that extra. So, yes, you know, we need to think of the educators who have no skills other than the fantastic skill of being an educator. Sorry, I need to rephrase that. When I said no skills, I mean no health and wellness skills, but they have a pack of skills. Because we know some educators, their skill doesn't take them beyond their specialized area. They don't do, you know, they didn't go and do further training in health and fitness, or in terms of psychology or CBT or counseling, as I have done. Some of them are just purely educators. So the purely educators, how do we, you know, how do we think they might be feeling? I think
you touched on some really important subjects there, and it got me thinking. And you're right, I'm into fitness and I'm starting tomorrow. And it hasn't entered my mind. I'm just going to be getting up and going straight in there, doing what I've got to do, obey the rules. The thing about it is, I don't really like rules. So all these rules about masks and, you know, the direction people have to walk and the gaps between them. I've gone back to the health, my leisure center to teach. I teach fitness classes, and they've changed everything around. And, you know, I have to go up the stairs and all the way round and back again to get into a room. If I forget something, I have to do it all again. So it's half empty. So I just go the other way. And the manager catches me and says, hey, you're not supposed to do that. What if we're checked and observed? And I'm like, there's nobody here. But these things, you know, I don't like those sort of rules, but I will obey them. I will adhere to them. And I would just go in and carry on as normal. But, okay, I do know that there's a lot of teachers who are scared. These are the guys that, I won't be wearing a mask, but they will be. They say they have to, and they're quite worried. They want that time off. But then you also bring me back to where I was previously. So maybe about 5-6 years ago, I was one of those teachers whereby I didn't think about me. I thought about my students. Therefore, I gave 150% to my students and not myself, which meant that every second of the day I was thinking, how could I improve my teaching? How could I improve my classes? How could I raise their grades? How could I make them enjoy the lessons more? All the things that us educators have to think about. And what it did to me, it brought me near to a breakdown. And I saw other teachers who went through that. And that's probably why I'm so into the well-being and why I set up Zest of Mind. And I thought, what better than to teach the young people so they have the skills that when they get to my age and adulthood, they have the skills already to be able to cope. So therefore, for me, it's, yes, we do have to think about those other teachers because they're going to come in and on top of their ordinary worries of exams and how their students are feeling, coping, what their lessons are going to be like, you know, they, on top of all of that, they're going to have the anxieties of each of their students. They're not going to be thinking of themselves. I've heard some stories of the new setups in schools whereby they're calling it staggered lunches, staggered playtimes, which means that each year group or class cannot mix with each other, and therefore staff cannot mix with each other. And when are staff going to have lunch because they're going to be needed so much more? So that means teachers are going to be neglecting themselves even more with terms of eating, 10-minute lunch, something like that. So therefore, their well-being is going to be lower and lower and lower. So I think that that is really important, that something needs to be done. So I mean, I've thought about some tools, that sort of thing, but just in general, just looking at the whole context of it in terms of what's going to be happening and why something needs to be done. It was great that you touched on something there, Debbie, that I didn't really, it didn't enter my mind, but then I thought, wow, you took me back to that place when I was that teacher that had all the anxiety and everything else because I was doing too much. But now with the addition of COVID, that's doubled.
Yeah, exactly. It's an extra, thank you, Alistair. It's an extra thing that no one is talking about. All this, everybody seems to be interested in, oh, my child or the students need to catch up intellectually and academically. I keep on saying, the hell with academic and intellectual. It is easy for children to catch up. But once you have a broken child and a broken educator, it takes so much more to mend the broken pieces. So that's the reason why we really need to start thinking about how could we actually repair the broken piece before we get to the complete brokenness. That's what we need to be talking about. Instead of at the forefront of everybody's mind, the intellectual. Intellectual could always be there. You know, you could actually have catch-up session so that the students actually catch up. You have the Saturday session, you have the evening session. But believe me, once the mind is broken, as we all know, the mind is the most powerful organ in the body. And once it's broken, it is very difficult to repair it again. So before we get to the repairing stage, we need to start cementing and fixing, or before we get to the fix, we're supposed to try to catch it before it's completely broken. So my two psychologists on the panel and my counselors, over to you.
Okay, so I think I agree with you, Debbie. We need to catch it before it's actually broken, and teachers need support. Yeah, teachers need so much support. As much as the management will be concerned with the students in class, are they learning? Are they completing the syllabus? But I think school managers also need to consider: is everyone in a good mental health state? Yeah. And I think maybe some of the things they can do is have a counselor available anytime for anyone. I know in some parts of the world, they have school counselors. In other parts of the world, they don't. So I think this is the time for those places to have a counselor for the students as well as for the teachers. And nowadays, counseling has become so diverse. You can do online counseling, you can have a forum where you just send a text message and you're talking to a counselor. You can have a platform where you make phone calls and you talk to a counselor. You can have one-on-one sessions, and schools really need to consider that, because that is the support that we need, you know. And other than even what Alistair is saying, having a fitness program where if counseling is not how you get rid of your anxiety, you can go and do something else. Yeah, you can do some other activity that allows you to relax, that allows you to refresh your mind. So teachers need to be given that. And also schools really need to be flexible now. It's good that they are making a flexible timetable for their students, but they also need to be flexible with the teachers, yeah, the educators. If let's not have a situation where the teachers are having a 10 minutes break and then you expect them to go back and teach and be okay. No, if the students are going to have a flexible timetable, let the teachers also have a flexible timetable. And like you've said, Debbie, it's the intellectual, we can always catch up, but the psychological, the mental, it can be very, very difficult. Yeah.
Thank you for that. That is so very true. Martha?
I would also like to add on top of, I'd like to add on to what Brenda just said. For the teachers, however much we are focusing on the kids, we also need to develop a culture, like positive work cultures, where teachers can be able to have good peer mentoring sessions amongst each other that will help them to open up and get proper mental health guidance. They like she's also said, I'd like to add, counseling is very important for some of them because they may not really have somebody to speak to, you know. And if we have schools bring in policies like where we have all schools should have counselors, I think that's something that all governments currently need to look into, because if we are only taking care of the kids, then who's gonna take care of our teachers? Yeah. So we need to have policies that are going to govern mental health issues that should be introduced in schools, right? Those policies should enable each school to have support systems for the teachers. So because if we don't arrest the issue before it comes out, then we may not, the damage may end up being much more than we expected. Yeah.
It is so very true. And it's like the more we talk, the more it becomes a very fearful situation for me, in the sense that, oh my goodness, this is big. How are they going to be coping? Because it's one thing saying to the educators, okay, we will have staggered lunch break, we have staggered breaks, we have all these staggered things, but how are they going to be getting the need to socialize? It's okay, they're saying that these children could socialize, etc., right? But what's happening to the educators? In one of the schools that my children go to, one of the things they said that educators have to wear the mask, but the children don't have to wear masks. And on the other hand, they're also saying in that same letter, we are also following the government guidelines. They also say that on the public buses, if children are taking the public buses, they are okay, they will have to wear masks. However, on the school buses, they don't have to wear masks, and it would be full to capacity. But the public buses, it is not full to capacity. They're following the government guideline. But the school buses would be full to capacity. However, we are suggesting to parents, where possible, encourage your children to walk to school or ride the bike to school. Whoa, that's a confusing factor there. Because on one hand, you're saying that on the public transport, they have to adhere to social distances, physical distances, etc. But on the school buses, you are telling me it's going to be filled to capacity, and the children don't have to wear masks if they want to wear masks. So this is such a confusing episode. I'm also saying that teachers teachers have to wear masks, but the children, they're not going to enforce it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yes, Alistair.
I was just going to say, it was a conversation I was having just this morning about it, that young people are going to be coming back. And at first, actually, our conversation started with our opinions on it. So I was talking to a friend of mine and we were talking about our opinions on whether to wear a mask or not to wear a mask, what's really going on. We did touch on different things like conspiracy theories, but that's for another show. But there's so much, you guys know.
Yes.
But that's the thing. Because I mentioned it, my friend said to me, "Oh, we won't end the conversation here. We'll be here all night." And also, then he mentioned that we have to watch out for what we say in terms of things like conspiracy theories, because the young people are going to hear this. But then I said, well, young people are hearing this anyway. So young people are hearing a lot of stuff. So they're hearing the conspiracy theories. They're on social media. There's everything's out there, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever there is. And then they're also hearing the confusing message from the government. And that confusion is just going to come to us. And what are we going to say? I don't know. I'm confused too. And they previously looked to us for guidance. Now it's a whole lot of confusion. So we have got to work out, well, what do we say? What do we do? And it's so much confusion, such that what you've just described there is going to be different in another town or another city or for another school. So it's not even a consistent state of confusion. It's a full, confusion everywhere. But I'd like to ask Brenda and Martha over in Nairobi, what is the rule? What is the government saying for us here? People traveling on public transport have to wear masks, but the young people in schools can run around and on the school bus and they don't have to wear masks. So that's one of the confusions. How is it over there for you guys?
First of all, let me comment on that. Yeah, in Nairobi, we are all asked to wear masks. There's nobody who's exempted from wearing masks. Even the little children are expected to wear masks. And currently, the schools are not yet open; they're still shut. The government has not yet decided on when exactly the schools are going to be open. So we are still on hold and waiting. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think in terms of that, I know other places like I think in Trinidad, they're not opening the schools maybe till January.
Yeah.
But one of the things you touched on there is that I have another friend. I've got lots of friends. He was living in Sierra Leone with the outbreak of Ebola. So his experience right now is just calm. He says, I know what to do. Just put on my mask, do this, do that. Just don't touch things, wash my hands, whatever. And he's so calm about it because he was there in Sierra Leone when Ebola was happening, and he knew what needed to be done. So that kind of like signifies to me that where is this government going, and where is our senior management of the schools going? So first up, senior management. They should be doing a much better job of what they're doing. They're senior management. They're in that role for a reason. They're paid for that reason. And therefore, you know what? Look after your staff, look after the children. Okay, they're going to say they're following government guidelines. So challenge the government. And one of the things is this: I always an advocate of managing upwards. And if your boss, your manager, the senior person above you can't do it, you have to step in there and do it. And I look at governments. Hey, you guys are, there's this international thing. You talk to people all over the world. Now, if this has happened in other countries, how did other countries deal with it? Okay, COVID is not Ebola or not anything else, but it's a similar type of thing. So therefore, okay, what did other countries do in these types of pandemics? So you know what, bring it over here and let's do the same type of thing. So I'm kind of like lacking of confidence in the senior management, the government, and so on. And I think that it may be for us, for me and you, Debbie, over here in the UK, to learn from our brothers and sisters over in other countries who've had things support and know what they're doing, and protect ourselves and our people.
That's very true. The thing that also concerns me is parents are looking on us educators to protect the children, right? And the sad thing about it is we do not know what to do because we are given conflicting information. And the same way the parents are afraid of, they're actually going back into work and doing certain things, we too are also afraid because we don't know what to do. Because if you would have a school saying to educators, oh, well, here are a list of websites and go away and deal with it, that is quite concerning. And the sad thing about it is the educator who told me about it, she thought it was okay. And I said to her, isn't there an issue? Of course, I'm hearing in her voice the anxiety, but because no one said anything to senior management, they all sat there and took it. Senior management think that, okay, the teachers are not complaining. This is such a common thing with educators. They don't know how to say no. They don't know how to say, I don't understand. They don't know how to say, challenge, the managers. Because if in my school, they're going to be giving me and say, okay, Debbie, here you guys, here's a list of websites, go away and look at the website and then find ways to deal with the children. I'm going to say, hell no. I need more than just a website because I could have done that myself. Because parents are now looking on me as an educator to safeguard the children in terms of the health aspect when they come to the classroom. So how am I supposed to do that? I don't even know how to do it for myself because you haven't given me the tools. You spoke about it briefly in the, in the staff development session, and then you gave me a set of websites. It's the whole thing is quite sad, but it is even sadder because educators are sitting back and accepting that they're not challenging the situation. So when you don't challenge something, the powers that be feel that it is okay. Because situation where when I say to senior management, oh, well, this isn't possible, etc., the comeback is always, okay, well, this team is able to do it, so why isn't your team able to do it? Sorry, my team is not going to go through the stress to do it. That's the issue. If team A, the manager wants to take the stress to go into the short deadline, that's their business. Team B, led by me, I'm saying, no, we're not going to do the stress. We need extra time. So when you have educators are accepting the short deadline because of fear of losing their jobs, it becomes an issue.
Yeah, I agree with you, Debbie. There's always that fear of, oh, if I speak up, am I going to be fired? Am I going to be told you're being stubborn? Am I going to be singled out? So I guess all educators always have that fear, but maybe what we can do is now just speak up. We have no choice. As an educator, just speak up, just say, but I'm concerned about ABC. I'm concerned about why, how am I going to be buying my own mask? Is the school going to provide? Does the school have, is the school going to provide sanitizers? Is there enough water for all of us to wash our hands? So I think this time round, educators have no choice but to just speak up for themselves. But I would like to say, fortunately in our country, in Kenya, anytime the government is issuing instructions on how we should behave because of COVID-19, they are usually very clear. They specify. The president will address the nation and he'll be very, very clear on what is supposed to be done. Then the media stations will get experts and we will analyze and people will say, this is what you should do. This is what the president meant. So they break down, the specialists really break down the information. And then we have campaigns on television saying, this is how you wash your hands. This is how you wear masks. It becomes, it becomes a movement. Celebrities do videos. Everyone is trying to educate everyone, so it becomes like a movement. And so I would say it's a little easier to comply. Everyone knows what they're supposed to do, or majority of the people. If you walk around in our city today, you will see almost everyone is wearing a mask. and at every bus stop, there's a place to wash your hands. So I'm hoping when the schools open, we are going to be doing the same. Yeah, we are going to be washing our hands, schools will have water and all those things, because we just get into this mood and campaign and everyone wants to tell everyone about what has been said and what's the right thing. So that really helps us a lot here in Kenya.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm sitting saying, wow.
So am I. And I'm liking hearing about the whole country getting involved and the clear leadership.
Yeah.
And you've obviously got Brenda and Martha's contacts, and I'd say if you guys can send over any YouTube videos of clips of these adverts and what the president and the leaders are saying, that would be fantastic. And I'd love to send that around to our networks here and let people see that, you know what is going on with our government here and our leaders. And we need to look to other countries that are doing it right. And if you guys are doing it right, let's look to you guys.
I totally agree, because I'm hearing, there is waters in the bus stop to wash your hands, and I'm thinking, whoa, the bus stop are still the same here. There's nothing. So, exactly, it's listening to that, it's quite interesting, because you're actually showing, what is real and what they're actually taking seriously. They're actually looking at the well-being of the nation as being a real serious factor. We need to deal with this. And it would be interesting to hear when your schools open what the situation is, because even now there's still conflicting information, because there's some schools that are saying they're not going to be opening. You have some headmasters saying they're not going to be opening because they feel that the government have not put enough things in place. You see, so those are some of the situations that we are going through and we're experiencing. So in terms of we going back this week, it'll be interesting to see, because my educator who was meant to come on today, and she obviously she's having problem coming on. Oh my goodness, yes, she's having problem. I'm not too sure, because she says she can't log on. Right, one of the things she's actually said to me in emails, the problem is they are so stressed because they really do not know what is happening. Because not only are they stressed in terms of the hours they're working online, they're also stressed in terms of how to deal with the children's mental health issue and their own mental health issue. Because some of them are working 7 to 8 hours teaching online, back to back. So in terms of self-care, some of them are saying to me, self-care, they don't even know what this is. And I had to say to them, you need to be aware and practice self-care, because when you actually burn out, that's it, done. Yeah. So those are some of the issues some of the educators are experiencing, especially in America. And in America, every state have different rules. And it is quite sad to having to work online for 7 to 8 hours. Looking at a computer screen. And on top of that, you are stressed because you're not having the time off. The only time off is your lunchtime. It's quite sad, because it would have been quite natural for she to actually talk for herself. So those are some of the things she's actually been saying, in terms of their mental health issue for the educators themselves is quite high, because they're very, very stressed, because they don't know what to do.
I'm calling it, at the moment, I'm calling it death by Zoom or Microsoft Classroom. Because
exactly, I think so.
And it's physical now. Now, previously, I worked in IT, and I had a back problem. And one of the things that got me into fitness more so and well-being is because I had a sciatica problem in the back, and I was sitting down all day in front of the PC. And my back was killing me. But then when I changed jobs and I went into the classroom, I was walking up and down, back and forth over the classroom, stretching up to the board, looking over there, moving that way, walking to different classrooms. My back pain went, and it was great. And I said, oh my gosh, that whole sitting down, was the cause of it, or partly. And now, guess what? Sitting down again. and I'm constantly on Zoom meetings, like so much all day long. But even that, I'm doing fitness on Zoom and over the internet. And even though I'm keeping my body fit, my poor eyes are constantly at a screen. And I did experience after, say, the first 4 weeks of lockdown, whereby that's something actually I'm going to ask you guys in Nairobi. Do you call it lockdown? What's your terms for this? Yeah, because that's very important. But yeah, I started experiencing like blurred vision and just like kind of flashy things, and I said, wow, this is too much for me, you know. So you could imagine how many other people are experiencing so many things like the repetitive strain syndrome, you know, RSI injuries, things like that, and also their eyes, the headaches, all of that type of thing, you know. So it's a bit of a crazy time, but it's apart from mentally, it's physically as well.
Exactly. And should any educational institution expect an educator to be teaching on a computer for over 4 hours? That's the question we need to pose. What does people think?
Yeah.
I think
I'm thinking there's going to be some court cases and like some, you know, people going off work sick because of things like that, and people are going to be blaming their management and yeah, taking them to court and trying to get compensation because they have not been taken care of and have been asked to sit down and work over X amount of hours. But sorry, Brenda, I did cut over you. Sorry.
It's okay, but I agree with you. I never used to wear glasses until maybe a couple of months ago. And it's because I started spending too much time on the computer. And like you're saying, if I attend this meeting without my glasses, I'm going to have a headache. So I can imagine being asked to be on a computer for 8 hours. I would have a very, very bad headache because of the blue lights from the computer. So teachers should just get up and stand up for themselves. I mean, let them talk about it, whether on Twitter, if they're going to start a campaign on Twitter so that somebody can hear what they're saying. If they have to, in America, whichever way is suitable for them to campaign for issues. If it is making phone calls, if it is getting celebrities to post about their issues, I mean, they should just stand up for themselves and say, hey, we are suffering here and somebody should hear us out, you know? Because I see no other way about it. If you don't complain, no one is going to do anything about what you're experiencing because nobody knows what you're going through. Nobody knows you're suffering. You have to say it. You have to say, this is too much. I need a break. You need to consider my health. Yeah. Because then again, we don't want a situation where, yes, the teachers are online. They've caught up with the syllabus. The students are learning. Their intellectuals have been taken care of. Then 6 months later, there's another problem. Teachers are leaving their careers because they are overworked, they are feeling tired, they are sick. Yeah, we don't want to have another problem. So we better just deal with it now. Let's listen to the teachers when they are complaining, you know. Let's if the teachers, let's stand up for ourselves and just say, okay, this is not good, let's do something, let's change it up. Yeah.
It's interesting because in America, because they're different states and they're different schools. Last week, one of the educators on my panel on the daytime show, she had said to me that her sister teaches in a private school and they cannot complain. If they complain, they're sacked because the government don't have any, although the government put money into the private school, the government still don't have any say in it. And that was quite sad because she was saying to me that her sister is suffering so much because some of the things they want the sister to do, like walk the 8 hours, back-to-back lessons, etc. And they cannot do anything. They're afraid of complaining because I said to her, get your sister to come onto my show. She cannot even do that. Because if she comes onto the show, she's likely to lose her job. And I've had a number of educators not coming on the platform because of that. It's quite sad. Sorry, Brenda.
I'd like to ask a question, right? Aren't there any policies that govern the number of working hours for the educators? Like, isn't there like policies that govern that how many hours they're supposed to be working?
There are, however, there are no policies for online, because remember, online is a new thing, right? And some
now we have something to deal with here. We need to now come up with those policies.
Yeah. That is so true, because even when teachers are teaching online, you know, you will have a list of guidelines, or, you know, for the students. For in the classroom, you would have what is it called? Rules, right? Thanks. Classroom rules, right? Online, you cannot use the same rules because the students deciding to switch off the cameras, or they're deciding to take the computer and go with the computer. So there is nothing. So even all of that, when you're actually teaching online, you are making the ground rules up as you go along when things present itself.
Yeah.
So even that is a big thing, because I've had some educators say that one of the students actually write on the screen when she was doing the Zoom lesson. She didn't know how to get rid of it. And she said the child keep on writing on the screen. And she said, stop it. He wasn't stopping it. So she said what she did was, the night, she stayed up all night, she went on YouTube, and she know how to get rid of it. So when the child actually did it the next day, and she said stop, and the child continued, and she wiped it up, there was shock. Oh my goodness, Miss, you know? Yes, I do know now. So these are some of the things as we go along as educators using the platform. When things present itself, you have to add extra to your rules, because you didn't think of that rule until it presents itself. In the same way, the schools have no rules unless educators said, no, I am not going to be teaching for the same 6 hours that I was teaching in the physical classroom, because I was able to move around, go, you know, change over my, you know, things, etc. If you're going to accept it, then there is an issue, because I've had educators saying to me, Debbie, I'm teaching back to back. Why are you teaching back to back? That's my question. Why are you teaching back to back? Oh, well, this is how my class is. I say, you need to be saying something, because you cannot be teaching back to back.
And this is what I'm saying. Why are they teaching back to back? And it's because as an educator, we got into education because we wanted to help people. And therefore, we want to help as much as possible. And we're going to give more and more and more until we've helped them. So, but we don't think about ourselves, and we don't give ourselves time limits. And I think that's very important. And therefore, you know, we've got skills, and we use our skills just in one direction. But let's take some of those skills in research, those skills in management. Let's use those skills to look at, well, how long should I be working? And then let me put this into a policy into the school. How do you do that? Well, you talk to the other teachers, you get yourself in little groups, and you look at it. I always look at things like, don't complain, but change things. Change things for the better, for the positive. Because you know you're complaining because something is hurting you or is going to be negatively affecting you. So therefore, let's use that to think of something that affects you positively. So I would say, well, go up to management and, you know, tell management that half of these teachers are going to be burnt out in 2 weeks if they continue like this. So let's put something in place to, you know, as a measuring how long they're working, or some sort of limit to say, guys, you're only doing 4 hours, then you stop, and then you have your breaks, you do whatever. Yes, we're bringing yoga into the school for, you know, for some social distancing yoga. We're bringing some nutrition in, we're bringing all of this in, and you guys are gonna stop, go off on your nutrition break, whatever it is, in meditation, mindfulness, and then you come back, you know, cutting the day short, doing different types of shift, working it all out. But that might come from somebody like myself who would sit down and say, right, you know what, I want to manage it for the best. I want to manage this whole teaching process so that it can last the year, rather than people getting burnt out and saying, hey, do you know what, I'm off sick in the next 2 weeks, and that's it. Then somebody has to take their place and education just drops. So it takes us to use our knowledge of what's happening to us. Unfortunately, the thing is this, lots of these people in senior positions have never been on the ground like teachers are. And I admire schools and education institutes that tell senior management, go and teach a class. So you have to be a teacher as well. And then they know what teachers are going through. And so therefore, when they're making their decisions, they are understanding what's best for the teacher. But let's look at higher up into government. Have they ever been a teacher? No. So therefore, they're never going to be in that position. So it's kind of like, again, it's managing upwards. You could tell them things and complain, but they just, stop complaining, especially if they have no solutions. So you have to give them those solutions. And that's what I'm an advocate of. Take the solutions to senior management, take the solutions to the government and put it in place. And if you can't, if they're not listening, you put the solutions out there into social media and you call it Zest of Mind. Zest of Mind policy.
Teacher success policy, darling. Teacher success policy, okay? Right.
The ideas are coming.
It is very true. No, Karen. Yeah. No, Karen, Brenda.
Yeah, I think also maybe teachers can try and get the support of parents. Yeah. Because if a parent hears that the teacher who's teaching their child is not very okay, I'm sure they would want to do something about it. Yeah, if you are a parent at home and you know the teachers are not giving their best because they are feeling overworked and they are burnt out, if I am a parent, I would want to do something about that situation. So if there's pressure from the parents, pressure from the teachers, then the management will have to do something. Yeah, I don't know how that would apply in other parts of the world, but I know, especially in private schools, because I teach in a private school, any concern that parents bring up is looked at very seriously, because it's the parent who pays the school fees, it's the parent who provides the money that runs the school. So if they have a concern, a genuine one, then the management will definitely do something about it. So maybe teachers can also consider how to mobilize the parents to be on their side. Yeah.
It's interesting though, because sometimes we would like to think that, the parents should be involved because we should have a parent relationship with the parents. The teacher should have a relationship with the parents. However, we've seen in the last few months how the parents are actually attacking the educators because their attack on the media, social media, etc., the press, etc., is like, educators are lazy, educators, they don't want to do their job. Educate is like all the negative. They're failing to realize that these same educators that you're attacking, these educators are doing the best they know how to support your children and your child. So it's not the teachers you should be attacking. You should not be attacking the educator. You should be attacking the politician. But sadly, the parents are not looking beyond that. Instead, you have things as the educators are lazy, the educators, they're coward, they don't want to go back to work, they're selfish. All those were lambasted in the press and on social media. And you have people actually having interviews and said, yes, teachers are so lazy, they don't want to go back to school. How would they expect us to go to work? Because they've been brainwashed by what the government have been saying to them, which is so sad. They are not looking at these same people you're attacking. Are these people that are doing the best to look after your children? When they come into the classroom, the politicians are not doing that. The educators are the ones looking at your children. They're the ones have to think, okay, how can I keep these children safe? Because the government are not giving us tools to keep your child safe. We have to find ways of doing it. But yet still, they've been brainwashed by the government. When the government say, oh yes, well, teachers don't want to go back to work. They should be going back to work last week. In June, they should have gone back. They haven't gone back. They don't like to work, etc. They're not seeing it as they're human beings and they're afraid as we are. That's what's so sad about it.
And that's it. It's a whole media brainwashing that's going on,
Yes.
because we don't look beyond what we're reading in that newspaper, not realizing that that newspaper is affiliated to government, and the government does what they want, and lays the blame on whoever, so that the blame's not on them.
Exactly.
And it reminds me when you started off the show, and you were quite passionate about the educators being blamed, and I thought, wow, whatever happened to the times when the educators were loved? Now, I'm not talking about years and years ago, you know, when the educators were really loved and it was like look up to teachers and people like that. I'm talking about at the start of this whole pandemic, when everything shut down and the kids were at home, and parents were like, oh my gosh, my kids are crazy. They don't stop. How the hell do the teachers teach my child? And they realized what the teachers were going through. And it was all over social media. It was in the newspapers and in the media, all the thank yous to all of those teachers for what they did and what they were doing and what they were being through. Parents were apologizing. I'm so sorry for calling you up and saying that you don't know how to treat my child or whatever. I don't even know how to treat my child now that I'm with them, you know, how many hours for the day. And that is something that, you know, it seems that it's totally turned around now. And again, because of what the government wants and what they push out into the media. But looking at the schools, I've gone into some schools. I was doing a project in the schools 2 weeks ago. And it was great because this school decided that they're going to get some of the young people to come back, you know, early, so through their summer holiday, just to do some fitness activities and to meet each other. And these kids were so happy to just be talking to each other and working with us. And it was a lot of fitness that they were doing. And one of the things we realized is they are so unfit. They did some skipping on the skipping ropes. And after 2 minutes, they sat down and they said, sir, we haven't done anything for 6 weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's true. Or 6 months. So, you know, it's that was amazing. But it was good that the school did that and put that into place for them. So schools are doing it. But saying that, I'm going into the leisure centre. Some leisure centres are just starting to open back up. And the changes that they've done, when I was telling you about having to go in one way, follow the arrows, you can't be here. They haven't got their changing rooms open, so no showers, none of all of that sort of stuff. So could you imagine what happens in a school that they've got to do that same sort of thing? It's a big job because, as I said, the leisure centres, private industry, and they couldn't even open up. So why would the schools be able to open up early? Now, and this is where the general public need to kind of open their mind and say, hey, that's not educators' fault. They're just following guidelines from management and the government. If they can't go back to work, how is the schools just suddenly, let's open the doors? No, there needs to be so many things put in place. So I think that's a whole media thing that needs to come out. And again, I'm actually thinking about teachers associations. Now we pay for teacher associations. I'm paying into my union, and you know, protect me. Get out there and say some stuff. Put it out there into the media and talk the truth. Tell them what's happening for us. And I think that we need to have some collective power here, and that's what the government stops. And they're winning, and they've done it so much where they just break people apart, divide and conquer. Because if we do get together, we will have all of these ideas of managing upwards, of getting the teacher unions and all of those associations all together, all of the different groups, all of the Debbies. Actually, I should say all of the Debbies. I don't even know where you guys are looking. It's 4 screens. But is Debbie up there?
Exactly, right, Debbie, in front of you.
So all of the Debbies to do things like this and bring it all together to educate and empower. Because we have been disempowered over the years to just kind of obey the rules. And that's why I said in the beginning, I don't like rules. I don't obey rules. And because I realized that rules are put in there to disempower me. So therefore, I would like to empower everybody to say, no, let's use our own brains, our own common sense to do the research and stand up for ourselves and make things happen.
It is, thanks, Alistair. It is so very true. The sad thing about all of that is, I've said on my platform, as soon as, because I started the daytime platform in May. So by June month, I said to the educators, when some of them say to me, oh, well, the parents are praising us, I say, I give you less than 2 months and they'll be attacking us, right? And that's exactly it. Less than 2 months, they're attacking us. Because, as Alistair, you rightly said, the government have actually brainwashing them and said, look, we're ready to open the industries, but teachers are not cooperating. They don't want to go back to school. Because you could, say to parents, well, you could work, but failing to tell the parents you are working from home. There's a lot of companies are not opening until January. Local councils are not opening until January because they realize that might be cheaper and it's better for the staff to stay at home. So therefore, why should educators be out there and our jobs are so much different? We have to wipe runny-nosed children. We have to, children who cry because the parents have just left them and they're standing there, they don't know what to do. You have to be wiping this nose because they don't know how to wipe their noses. People are not looking at the reality of what educators really do. That's the sad thing about it. And I find it sometimes very frustrating because we are compared with the supermarket staff. That look, Sainsbury's are open and the staff are yes, but have you seen how the staff are dressed with the mask, the prospect, the division? None of that is in schools. So it would be quite nice when I come online on Sunday next week, because I'll have been in school for a week. So therefore I'll be able to say, look at this. So the beauty of going back to school on one hand, we'll be able to talk firsthand what we actually experiencing. That's the thing about it.
Yeah.
Right. For us, I would just like to say, for us, the teachers are still getting praised. We are still in the honeymoon stage.
I like that, the honeymoon stage.
Yeah, the parents are saying, oh, wow, so teachers have been doing a lot of work. We now appreciate school. We now appreciate what teachers do. And I am hoping that we will not end up like you guys. We will not end up with a fight and the teachers being told you don't want to go back to work. But for us, maybe the teachers will want to go back to work because work means pay. Yeah. And Martha can correct me if I'm wrong. The teachers would want to go back to work, but of course there's the concern of the safety, like the masks, the sanitizing and all that. So yeah, I hope we don't end up, our relationship doesn't take a wrong turn and we end up fighting and being blamed as teachers. Yeah.
Teachers in America and England. The teachers in America and England are being attacked, basically.
That's sad. And for us here, generally, teachers are highly respected.
Whoa.
Teachers are highly respected. And before you say anything about teachers, you think twice. And the teachers union is very active. Yeah, the teachers union is very active here. So if there are any issues, you'd see them on the media talking to the government and saying this needs to be put in place fast and challenging whatever the minister says. So we are hoping our will not take a wrong path or will not be in such conflict. Yeah. I don't know what Martha thinks.
Wow. Thank you. Martha?
Regarding the teachers?
Just general.
Sorry?
Just in general, if the teachers, if you want to put regarding the teachers or something else, because just now I'm going to be asking for tools and strategies to help us.
Well, I would just like to actually agree with her. I'm not disagreeing with Brenda at all, because like she said, for us, our teachers have a very strong union that really pushes for their issues. Like we really don't expect to have such issues in this country unless things change. but we think first it's gonna be seamless because the unions that we have are very strong that support our teachers.
That's fantastic.
I don't know if you have the same as well in your country.
We do have, but I'm not too sure how strong they are because the government still seems to be overruling. You still have some, the plus is you have some schools that are saying that they're not going to be opening because they do not feel the government have things in place. So it's a matter of looking to see what the result of this by the end of the week, whether or not those schools who are adamant that they were not going to open because the government didn't have any things in place, to see what they do, because the union was supporting those schools. So it'll be interesting to see what happened by the end of the week. It's really,
okay.
It's interesting. So what tools are we going to be offering these educators who are flat out? And as one of my colleagues who sent me a long email telling me that they went back last week, she's very, very stressed. The schools, they want them to teach 8 hours. The students have so many issues. For herself, she's saying that the online platform is a disaster, although she's learned quite a lot from it. There's so many issues because going back online now for some educators, it's challenging because now when they go back, whatever area they're teaching in especially the US I'm looking at, they are saying that they have to teach that type of hours. Some of them are teaching 8 hours, some are teaching 6 hours, some are teaching 5 hours, and back to back. So whatever state they're in America, however they used to teach in the physical classroom, it is now transported into the online classroom, and the hours are the same. So what tools could we offer this? Because they're actually asking for tools. I put something in one of the education group, and the question I ask is, it was for male and female. What have you been doing for your self-care? How important have been self-care? And I think it was either 200 or 300 feedback I've been getting. Some of them say self-care gone out the window. Some of them say that, they're just about able to go for a walk. It's been interesting in terms of me posing those questions. I then pose another question on all the teachers' platform and say, okay, how was online teaching? What was the online teaching now for you? Some of them say to me, they hate it. They hate it because they're doing the same hours as they were doing in the physical classroom. So you must hate it. If you're doing 6 hours in the physical classroom and then you're doing 6 hours online, I'm gonna hate it because it means that I am looking at the screen for 6 hours. Mm-hmm. So we have my educators around the world, especially in the US, they need some help. They need some tools. They need support in terms of, how can we support them to make them feel that it is okay. You need to take care of yourself, because I keep on writing on the platform, you need to take care of yourself first, because if you don't take care of yourself, it means that you're not able to do anything else, because when you're actually gone sick, the school needs to now find someone else to replace you. So it's twofold in those situations, because that's why the schools need to be mindful of, if you run down your educators, you need to find a replacement. But where from? So what tools could we offer our struggling educators?
My first thing, I got a list here, right, of all of the strategies, right, to deal with, say, stress and anxiety. And I'll just read them off, but it's things like meditate, stretch, exercise, listen to music, watch TV, go to the movies, read, work on puzzles, and there's a whole list of things to do. But then most of us know this, but then it pops out of our head, we forget it, and we don't do anything. So then I look at ways of reminding yourself, and reminding yourself by having pictures on the wall. As soon as you wake up, you see a picture on the wall that tells you to say your positive affirmations, something like that. But then I think it's much bigger than this. And I look at it as, I was writing things down, and I said, you know what? It's all about planning. And planning is so key, And I'm going through it as I'm just very, very busy in my life. And sometimes I'll start falling over and becoming overwhelmed. And I realize I've stopped planning. And that means that I'm just jumping up to do things just off the cuff and just, ad hoc. I'm jumping up to do that, jumping up to do that. But if we start planning and we divide our time, maybe we look at our day and we divide our day and we say, right, well, we know that we're going to have to rest and eat and family. That leaves us with this amount of time. What am I going to do with it? Yes, it's for work. So, okay, my time at work is going to be teaching because it has to be. But how about, time for sharing and debriefing, time for myself in school, time for innovation. So just like with a business, I'm part of a charity. There's a charity. I'm a VP, the 100 Black Men of London. Fantastic charity all over America and in London. And I've come along and I realized that I have a current job to do. But at the same time, there needs to be a lot of tidying up of the past and dealing with all the things that went on before me. So putting structures and things in place and understanding what happened. But also there needs to be planning for the future. So I've got to divide my time into 3. So it's the past, the present, and the future. And that's the same thing with this, is it's planning like you have to teach, that's the core of it. But you've got to take some time for yourself. So give yourself that self-time. Otherwise, you won't be able to do anything. And then the innovation, the future, as in what you're doing, how can you make the best out of this situation? So what that is about is, can you upskill yourself or update yourself on these tools, these Zoom, Google Classrooms? We've had like loads of time over the holidays to be doing that. Some people have been doing it and teaching, but what else can we bring into place? And it doesn't have to be technology. These are just different ideas that we can bring into place. So that was one, which is planning. There's a few more. I'll just say number 2. And number 2 is power in collectivity. And what I mean by that is exactly what we are here, brainstorming, talking, sharing, letting it out. It's so great for us. So I'd say I would tell teachers, and if I was a manager in a school, I would advocate it and form it myself. You guys get into groups. These are your support groups. Now, in your support groups, you're sharing and debriefing. That came up earlier, to share your anxieties, to share your feelings, debrief on the day. So at the end of the day, you get together and you just let it out, before you go home. And then a part of it, talk about the ideas and the innovations that you can do. What can you do to move forward? And say here in a group of 4, I might say something, well, this might be a good idea. And somebody else might say, oh, why not add this? Somebody else says, add that to it. And then there it is, it shapes into something nice. But one person can't do it. So my 2 things there is the planning. And then number 2 was power and collectivity. Get yourselves into groups for that type of support.
Thank you. It's interesting because some of the educators I've been speaking to, they've actually formed their own WhatsApp group. And in terms of when we first started teaching online, they say some of the anxiety they had or they don't know what to do, they would actually call them up, etc. However, what's really fantastic, Alistair, you said in terms of they were not doing the debriefing. They were looking at it as only a support collective. And it is so very important that you do the debriefing of how you're feeling, what's the issue. It's like the unloading. And I don't think they were doing enough of that because they were so focused on trying to get it right to teach on the online platform. And I said to them, you cannot get it right. You cannot learn everything there is to learn on the online platform. See it as your first teaching engagement. When you first became a teacher, you were not a brilliant teacher when you first started. It's go over a period of time. You need to see the online platform as learning everything over a period of time. And I think that a lot of educators didn't see it like that. They see it as, we need to get it right. We need to get it right. So there was all this pump, get it right, get it right, get it right. Because we need to teach the children because there's nobody helping us. And there were no debriefing. It's like, oh my goodness, tell me how you do this. And what they were failing to do was the debriefing. And they were failing to look after number one, which is themselves. So the debriefing is fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. Brenda, what tools would you actually be able to give educators when they go back?
Okay, so I feel like some of it I mentioned last time when I was appearing in the week show, but some of the self-care things you can do is make sure you eat right. Like Alistair said, health, it's important, diet, nutrition, eat right. Yeah, make it your responsibility that you're eating right, the right food that will give you energy so that you can go on for long hours if you have to. Yeah, then sleep, do your good sleep, make sure you get your enough hours of sleep. Take breaks, even if you have to teach 6 hours, make sure you have a break in between. It's very, very important. When you're teaching, you teach back to back, you teach for 1 whole hour, you go talking and talking, you also get confused and you feel drained. And you're not just a teacher. You're a mother, you're a wife, you're a sister, you're taking care of maybe your parents, you're taking care of other people. So please just take breaks so that you can keep your sanity. Yeah, then find a balance. Like Alistair said, you need to plan. So plan, have schedules so that you're not overwhelmed. You're able to take care of your other responsibilities and you're able to take care of your students also. And then, okay, let's say you're in a situation where you really have to teach the 8 hours. Give assignments. Do 30 minutes or whatever, do 30 minutes. If it's a 1 hour class, do 30 minutes of class, give 30 minutes of assignments, yeah? Let them go research on it. Then when you come back in the next class, you can take time to go through that so that you're not overwhelmed. You're there teaching and talking for a whole hour. So utilize assignments. Then if you can get up out of your seat and teach while standing and moving up and down so that you don't start having back problems. If you're teaching older kids, you can maybe even switch off your camera and walk around as you talk with your microphone, just to keep the movement, yeah, so that you're not sitting in the same position for hours and hours and you start having back problems. Then another thing which I really worked for me is that I will combine classes. If I have students taking the same course, I would put them together and teach them together so that I don't have 2 classes and I'm going to teach them the same thing. So when I combine them, it's like I've released 1 class, but I'm actually teaching all the students. So if that option is available to you, please utilize it, yeah? Then ask for help. Ask for help from your colleagues, like that we are talking about peer consultations, yeah? Because sometimes you're struggling with something and somebody else has a solution already. Someone is telling you, oh yeah, I went through that and this is how I handled it and it worked. So talk to your other teachers, yeah? If you have a good relationship with them, just talk to them, ask for help if you're stuck somewhere. Yeah, so those are some of the tips I would share. I hope they can help to any other person who's teaching, whether it's primary school, secondary school, or college.
Thank you for that. Martha?
I think most of the panelists have already said much of what I would want to speak about, but I'd like to add that as an educator, once you have already decided on the number of hours that you're going to to teach, kindly stick to the boundaries. Like don't go overboard, because when you go overboard, it gives you burnout. Yeah. So kindly just ensure that you stick to your time, and if you feel like you can't handle it, just find a way of dealing with it, probably by postponing or something like that. And then the other thing I would also like to add is that talk about your challenges. If you feel like you're going through some challenges with online teaching, kindly speak to other people, because sometimes when you speak out, then you get help. If you don't, you may end up even getting into depression. So I think it's very important to speak about the challenges that you're facing. Yes.
Thank you. Some of the things I've used is meditation. An avid thing of meditation. I think it is so extremely important that educators meditate, and also journal writing. I also strongly encourage educators to journal and also encourage the student to journal, because some students may not want to tell you some of the challenges that they're going through. They'll rather write it. So if they're able to write it, encourage them to write it. Encourage them to do art. Art is also a fantastic way for students to express themselves. So when students are expressing themselves through certain doodle while you're teaching, etc., no need to tell them off. You need to have a look to see what is causing them to actually express themselves in this art format. Because in this time we're dealing with, some students may not be bold enough to tell you that, oh, I've had a number of bereavement in my family. Oh, we never used to be talking as a family, but I was forced during the lockdown to talk to my mom and dad, and they're constantly arguing, or, we can have the nice side where, oh, I've never really known what it was like to talk to my mom and dad, and it was lovely, So this child is actually going through the process. So educators, I would strongly suggest you meditate, you journal for you and your student, you meditate with you and your student. Music, especially calming music like classical. I know classical for some of my Black students, when they actually come into my lesson of classical music, they're looking at me, Miss, what are you on? I say, I'm on classical. Welcome to my classroom, right? So it's like getting them to start appreciating certain music that would actually implement calmness in them, because they're not used to calming the mind. Once the mind is calm, there's so many things that could actually come out of it. So in terms of music, in terms of, with Alistair, in terms of the movement of the body, things like that, I do that a lot with my class. I'm not a fitness instructor, but I'm a movement instructor, right? So things like that. All these tools, I feel that it is important for educators to start arming themselves, because what you use in yourself as an educator, you could also use it with your students. You need to also remember that some students, because they've never done those things, it would be quite foreign for them. But the more you do it, the more they get used to it. I got to the stage where when students came to my classroom and the music wasn't on, they're saying to me, Miss, why is the music on? I'm having a problem with the computer. Can someone come and help me do that? So they actually become so used to that music. And that was before COVID. So you could imagine now me going back to the classroom. All these things I've used was before COVID, because we have not gone back to the classroom yet. So it actually demonstrates the need for me to use those even more. The fact that I'm a psychologist, using those things activate the mind and quiet the mind. So hence the reason why I'm using those things. So those are some of the tools I would, suggest for educators. Right, let us just summarize, and in terms of how you want to leave the program and what you want to leave your educators with. You're an educator, Mr. Alistair, so what you want to leave your colleagues with?
Sorry, I was just thinking about the cake. It's a picture in my mind. I'm just like, yes, I'm going to get it in 10 minutes. Okay. What I want to leave you guys with, and everybody that's watching, the two things that I gave as the tools, I think they are so important because they encapsulate pretty much everything. And those two things were the planning and the power in collectivity. And so just to recap, the planning is make sure you plan your time and include the things that are necessary to help you. So when you're planning, if you are usually teaching 6 hours, straight, you gotta take that right down. So maybe 3.5, 4 hours, and then you gotta take 1 hour for yourself and 1 hour for innovation, for like building new ideas and trying to improve your situation. So because there's no point doing the same old thing all of the time. And what is it, some famous person said that was the definition of madness, doing the same old thing and expecting a different result. And so if we keep on doing the same thing, nothing's going to happen. We're not going to move. We're not going to get any better. So I think that we have to give ourselves an hour for ourselves, an hour for innovation, and then the rest for teaching. So divide up your time. And then the other thing was the power and collectivity, which is just ensure that you have your groups. There's a number of people I speak to, and I say, who are your what's that word? It's on the tip of my tongue. The person that you, or the people that you go to for advice, that you go and cry on their shoulder. Who are those people? I can see Brenda looking up, like, who is it?
Mentors.
Not even mentors. Not mentors. I think it begins.
Support.
It's kind of like that. I will think of it by the end of by after you guys speak. It'll probably come to me. But these are the people that you would say it's like a it could be a friend, it could be a family member, but they're your kind of like your support network that you go to let out your, I don't know, any anxieties, and talk about like your deepest problems, because many of us keep our deepest problems within. So build up your networks and have like the people that you can cry on their shoulder. Then there's the others at work. You can't probably cry on anybody's shoulder at work, but have those at work where you go to share your ideas. At the end of the day, get together, have a debrief, and just share. Have a coffee together, a drink, whatever it is. Socially distanced, it has to be, and that's what it is. So those two things is planning and the power and collectivity.
Okay. Right, Brenda.
So I'll just say one thing. As educators, take care of yourself first. It's only when you're okay will you deliver what you want to deliver to your students. If you're not okay, you won't give your best. If you're not okay, you will not help that student who needs your help. So make sure you're okay first, then you'll be able to do what you want to do.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Martha?
I'd like to talk to both the educators who are listening to us right now and even the members in the panel, and let you know that your mental health is very important. It's as important as your physical health. If you do not take care of your mental health, you'll be so messed up. So even in this time for COVID-19, like after all these things have happened, you need to understand that taking care of your mental health is very important. If you don't, you may end up losing whatever, like you may lose up your health. Your health may deteriorate. That's what I wanted to say. Your health may end up deteriorating. And as much as you're saying you're trying to protect, to stop yourself from losing your jobs, if you do not have good mental health, you will end up losing that job, because at the end of the day, you will have to get out of work to take care of yourself. So it's important you prevent it right now before it gets to you.
Yes, right. I support, thank you. I support everything the panel says. And educators, it is so important for us to deal with the educators, because we don't want broken educators. It is easier to fix the intellectual aspect of the children than to fix the broken children and broken educators. Right, is there anything else people want to say before I actually just close up? Okay, thank you very much to my panel for taking the time off to come online to discuss the most important issue which nobody's talking about, which is the mental health of educators and students. We've actually supplied you guys with a number of tools that you need to actually start looking at. And the most important factor, you need to start taking care of your mental health. It is paramount because the mind is so important. The mind could either make you or break you. This is something I say to my psychology students all the time. You decide what you're going to do. Your mind is very powerful. It could either make you or it could break you. You decide. In this case, educators, you need to decide to make sure that this mind doesn't break you. It actually makes you. Thank you very much to everybody for listening. Good morning, good night, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back on because my woman is waiting in the waiting room for my next show. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you later.